There are two stories out today in the mainstream media that are perfect textbook examples of how psychological operations work every single time they're tried, especially when the targets are unaware of the technique or that they're even being targeted. To understand this, the first place we have to stop is here. Psychological operations is the idea that you can manipulate people into having a certain opinion about information by simply introducing emotion. If you want to change the way people feel, you first must change the way people think. Now, two stories. One is from Florida, the second is international. Let's do the Florida one first. Democrats cry fascism as Florida Governor Ron DeSantis proposes making participation in disorderly assemblies a felony. Now, let's think about that statement critically for just one moment. Meaning, let's think about it, let's not feel about it. How can an elected official, Ron DeSantis, be fascist? He was elected by the people of the state of Florida. Whatever he does or does not do is the responsibility of the people of the state of Florida, is it not? Even those who would go to the extent to say that, well, everybody who's in any position of power anywhere in the United States is all selected, not elected, would have to then admit that this story isn't a story. Because all decisions, by definition then, would be fascist, wouldn't they? But of course we know that's not the case. But let's read what actually occurred here to show how unbelievably screwed up these people are. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has called for a harsh crackdown on violent and disorderly protests, proposing a bill that would bring steep penalties for rioting. Critics insist the law is a quote-unquote fascist ban on free expression. The Republican governor introduced the new law during a Monday press conference, the Combating Violence, Disorder, and Looting in Law Enforcement Protection Act, which, if passed by the state legislature, would make participation in disorderly assemblies a third-degree felony, among other measures. So he didn't introduce an executive order saying this was the case. He just put together a law, and he is going to allow the people of the state of Florida to decide whether it is going to be the law of the land or not. How is that fascist? Now, you may agree with the law, you may not agree with the law, but the only way it makes it onto the books is if the people of the state of Florida decided to be so, which is the exact opposite of fascism. This is the psychological operation. You see, because of the content of the law and how people will react to those things emotionally, they don't read the text. They don't read the actual facts on the ground. They don't understand them because they're only living in their feels. Now, here's where it gets even better. More proof that this group of people is operating emotionally. Forget that this man is trying to protect the innocent, that it was already a crime in the state of Florida and many others to protest in a violent way. Ashlyn, the anarchist Barbie, says, quote, DeSantis is a fascist. Pass it on. Every protest is immediately going to be declared violent. Also, not holding drivers accountable that plow down protesters. There's so much here to unpack. Really? This is an assumption, is it not? And at Sharon with an I, Stone, not the actress, says, so if I'm peacefully protesting and the guy 10 feet away from me decides to go rogue, I can be arrested by association? Sounds a bit fascist. So let's say that we take Miss Stone out of this and we introduce a police officer. So if a police officer is abiding by the law, like most do, like 99.9% do, and a few bad apples decide to go rogue, we can blame them by association. Oops. Oops. She blew it. It's okay for Antifa to broad brush all of law enforcement, but now when protesters, who supposedly are only going to be peaceful, are going to now be tossed in the clink with the violent protesters standing with them, that's inappropriate? And Dave Zurin would have you believe that protesters attempting to illegally restrain citizens in their car or destroying their property have more rights than the actual innocent citizen do. You see, they believe that they are protecting the people when a law designed to protect the people is put forth, they attack it. This is absolutely textbook psychological operations. The people of the state of Florida will decide this. All the governor did is put forth the law to be voted on. Now, if those protesters come here, which I doubt they will, it's a very simple technique that can be used to defeat them that will be completely nonviolent. And it comes from Miranda Lambert, believe it or not. Bless your heart. This is what made me think of this term. It was a line from a song called Only Prettier. Well, I've been saved by the grace of Southern charm. I've got a mouth like a sailor, and yours is more like a Hallmark card. And if you want to pick a fight, I'm going to have to say goodnight. I don't have to be hateful. I can just say, bless your heart. Here's the technique that the protesters absolutely have to use every time or they fail. You see, they need to be able to take anything that they perceive to be injustice, record it with a smartphone, and upload it. That's their power. That's their power. But what happens if connectivity goes down? What happens if connectivity goes down in a localized area? You don't think the authorities have this power? Think again. What happens when they can't live stream, or they can't Periscope, or they can't Facebook all of the quote-unquote perceived injustice? The media is going to stop caring. The people they thought were on their side are going to stop caring because they can't get likes, they can't get shares, they can't get Nielsen ratings. You see, the first video anybody's going to see from Florida regarding protests or this injustice or that injustice, the first video they're going to see is the unedited body camera footage from the officers. That's going to be the first thing that goes online. Not some random person's edited smartphone video. And you know where this technique really came from? You see, a lot of these guys that are in blue used to be in green or in camo or in tan. And this was the garbage that was pulled overseas, trying to attack and slime and smear our soldiers serving in Iraq and Afghanistan. They would videotape things, they would edit things, they would make things look like things that were not true. So this is an old game. This is a very old game. All Florida has to do, as far as a state goes, is be the first press with what really happened. After that, it's over. And even telling Antifa this changes nothing. It changes nothing. They want to come here, they want to protest, let them. They get violent, they're going to be thrown in the clink. They want to try to throw up videos, there won't be any connectivity. We'll make sure as soon as those people start in doing with their nonsense, there's not going to be a live tower within 10 miles of them. Now, what is the second story? The second story is a bit more international, and it goes back quite a few more years. There was a major drug bust, international drug bust just done. Operation Disruptor. But there's a problem with the story as far as a lot of more conservative Americans go. 179 total arrests worldwide, 85 here in the US, 6.5 million in cash and virtual currencies, 270 kilograms of drugs seized, 63 firearms seized. Customs and law enforcement, Europol, the FBI, biggest ever. But there's a problem with the story. See the flags down here? See all the flags? This is where it took place. The biggest opioid bust in history took place in, are you ready? US, Germany, Canada, the Netherlands, United Kingdom, Austria, and Sweden. Does anybody see it yet? 4 years ago, people were flipping out saying, oh no, we need to stop all of the huge influx of drugs through our southern border. You notice the names Mexico, El Salvador, Guatemala were not on that list. And more importantly, neither was Venezuela. I thought Nicolas Maduro was one of the biggest drug traffickers in the world. Not on the list. The biggest opioid bust in history, and not one single South American or Latin American country was listed. Now tell me that isn't going to tweak a few people. But of course, they're going to see this article and they're going to clap, 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 clap. Gosh, the Trump administration's doing great and cracking down on drugs and doing all this, super stuff, and not going back to 4 years ago saying, hey, wait a minute. Hold on, back the truck up. Why aren't any of the countries listed south of us? Why is it all Europe? Something to think about, huh? Something to think about. The truth of the situation. Canada? The Netherlands? Great Britain? Germany? Really? See, this is what happens when you get in people's heads and you make them feel and not think. They won't even see it. They will literally read right through the text of something, and because they're just filtering it emotionally, they will not be able to understand what's really being said. Whether it's the situation with Antifa in Florida, or whether it was the people who wanted to demonize everyone who spoke Spanish in the world. It's the exact same thing. And I'll leave it there. Like, share, subscribe.